Hey, and welcome back. I'm at Waterway Park on the Intercoastal, and I've got a treat for you today. I've got a boat tour on a very unique boat made by my friend Jim. He's going to have to tell us this story because I don't know very much about it. It's very unique. You may have seen it around the waters in Jupiter. He is a maritime artist and comes up here, and it's a little tiny boat, so he just pokes around the inland waters. So let's go down here and he'll tell us all about the boat, how he built it, and then we'll get some footage of him leaving the dock. Hey Jim.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All right.
Safe trip?
Good trip.
Good. Nice to see you.
It's a trip you can walk away from.
Yeah.
It's a good trip.
That's what they say about aircraft landings. Anyone you can walk away from is a good one.
The good one, right?
Yeah, great. So it's a pretty day for a boat trip?
Yeah. It did clear up, you know.
Yep. Well, I thought what we'd do is take a walk around the boat together and tell me all about it. We'll get some detailed shots, and then we'll film you launching her and taking off.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so tell me what we've got.
Well, I've admired this boat since I got out of the Navy. They started making these in the early 70s. Place in Fort Lauderdale, Salt Marine, and it was just a perfect little rowing skip. It had very classic lines, and it had a wine glass stern, and I used to see them at the boat shows, and sort of fell in love with them, but I didn't have much money back then, so but after a while I got worked for Eastern Airlines, and then I always wanted to be a marine historical artist. So when Eastern went down financially,
right,
I was at loose ends, so I just started my own business, and so I was able by then to afford one of these, and so I looked around, couldn't find anything, but I found one in a boatyard in Fort Lauderdale. It was upside down, it was covered with barnacles, but you know, I fell in love with it. So I asked who it belonged to, and they wanted too much money. They wanted $1,000, but I gave it to them. And I made the trip. I was living on the Miami River at the time in a frame house. It was a lovely old house, and it was ideal for me because at the time I had a 32-foot sailboat.
Let's step out of the way here. Become a statistic. You had a sailboat.
Yeah, it's 32 feet. It was a steel sailboat from Holland, and I turned it into a little galleon. I made carvings out of fiberglass resin, made molds, and so I completely festooned her stern full of carvings. She had a stern cabin, she had a forward cabin, and I did a cutaway board, you know, cutwater, and more carving. So it was a massive carving, and I loved it. And that was my main star back then. But this when I got this was good because I could take this out too. And
well, what happened to the sailboat? Sold it?
Well, sailboat was steel, and when I moved up to Delray about 20 years ago, left the sailboat down there, kept renting, but the rents kept going up. The maintenance got, you know, I'd go down every Saturday and Sunday and try and keep her up. It was breaking my heart.
So you were living in Miami because you were working for Eastern when Frank Borman was there.
Exactly.
You must have been living close to Lejeune Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was 27th Avenue in the river.
You know, there's 27th Avenue in the river. Oh, right there by Moosa Isle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Miami.
Oh, you are? All right.
And there's a woman, a friend of mine, that lives down here off Forest Hill, and she was working at Eastern at the time that Borman was there, and it went under.
It was a huge blow for a lot of people.
Yeah, it was. Well, I lived just over the Miami River in a few blocks up in Hialeah, so I was over there all the time.
All right, yeah.
All right, so let's take a look here. So tell me what we've got on our hands.
Well,
tell us about the history of the boat.
It was a rowing skiff. It was a 14-foot rowing skiff with a 3-foot beam. Very traditional, and as I got a hold of it, I noticed though there was a couple of things that I was going to have to do right away. It wasn't very rigid, so I put ribs every foot or so inside, and also it lacked a freeboard, so it was easily swamped. So yeah. I first thing I did is I put this strake in, and that worked out quite a bit, and I was able to put a boat cover on that, and then you just roll the boat cover up, but everybody would sit on the boat cover. I'd say, don't sit. They're sitting on it and they break the battens. So I said, there's not much future in this. So I then came along with this strake without that, and then I got this cabin. So I did that, and that was the boat.
So if this was the first level,
yeah,
and that was the second one
up to here,
yeah,
and then it was very wet forward when I put this on. Well, it solved some of the problems, not all the problem. So eventually I had to go, I filled in the forecastle, and then with this is cool, but not unfinished really, basically. So, but it stayed like this for about 10 years. But after I did a lot of sketching to see what would look right and what would not. So when I did this,
let me come around to this side while you tell that story. Go ahead.
This not being sufficient, so I decided to make this little cabin here, and I did that, and I added this first strake, and that worked better, and it was a lot drier, but she was still too wet. So each thing I did a lot of sketching, and I wanted it to look right. So I added this. That was good. And this I added probably 10 years ago. But finally I realized I needed one more strake.
What is a strake?
One more layer.
Okay.
And and I agonized over that because I didn't want too much. Too much of anything in a boat, you want it balanced. And but I put it on, it looked good, and then when I added the scroll work, it looked great. It looked good to me. So
where'd you get all the scroll work?
I make it out of clay.
You make these?
Yeah.
You make all this scroll work?
Yeah, I made it myself, just like I did.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I won't interrupt your filming.
No, yeah.
I don't interrupt.
It's okay. Come on over and visit.
Cool. Very cool.
My name's Richard.
Richard.
I have the YouTube channel Jupiter Inlet Boats.
Oh, okay, Andy Kohler.
Andy, and this is...
I'm Jim Flood.
Hey, Jim.
I'm a marine
Jim?
artist.
Nice.
Marine or maritime?
Maritime.
Maritime artist. So, join in you're welcome to listen in. He was just telling us he did all of the scroll work himself. This is not commercially purchased.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done six boats in my life, and now the one when I just got out of the Navy was a 14-footer, and I started experimenting with that. I said, I want real scroll work, I want sculpture on here, and I used a thickener for fiberglass, Cavasil, and you mix it up with a pallet, and then you put it on with a palette knife, And that was okay, but it wasn't exact enough. But so my next boat was the Royal Charles. Then I used molds. I found out all about molds, and I used a plastic mold, and boy, it was great. And I still have some sculpture from that. But
So is this glass or?
this is plexiglass,
Okay.
because it's strong and it's resilient.
Okay, and what do we have up in here?
This is mahogany plywood.
And what's underneath this?
Oh, this is the gas tank.
Oh, okay.
You've got the gas tank comes down here, the filler tube then goes forward, and the gas tank really is about here, just about where you want it to.
So this outboard is running off an inboard fuel tank.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and we got a gold anchor.
Yeah, that's just for looks.
Yeah. And what's this?
Well,
A flag. A little birdie.
Yeah, my little birdie. Yeah, we might as well.
Well, if you're going to hit the seas today, you need to get Old Glory out.
That's right.
There we are.
Right.
Cool. All right, so let's go back to this first cockpit here.
So then I decided when I did this level and this, then I did this as protection for my wife, because she's going to get all wet. So got to keep her happy.
Yep.
So I did this, and it was a good opportunity. I had cable steering at the time, and I had cables running from there, and this was an emergency steering where I could shift over if something happened to that. So I've had that for years until just this Christmas time, last Christmas, and my wife gave approval for me to get a bigger engine.
Oh, okay.
This I used to run on a first of all, I started with a 6-horse Mercury, not enough power, although it pushed it fine, you know. Then I went to an 8-horse, and that was pretty good, but it was very old. I got it for a bargain, and it started running out of steam. It would only give me 8 knots, really, 8 to 9 knots, and then that became 7 knots, and I knew we were on almost slide away, you know.
Well, so what's your cruising speed?
Well, so now with 15 horses, I'm getting 12 to 14 knots.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now tell me about these vents.
Well, now I'm a piano player. And
one of those guys, they never run out, right? Maritime artist, boat builder.
And these were on each side of my piano. And then when I got this and I started working on this, I took them off the piano. I said they're more appropriate here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And they go absolutely nowhere. But it balances off the stern
It
cap.
does, it does. And so we have this.
Yeah, now
storage.
This is storage for oil, tools, some spare gas, life cushions. There's some more life cushions, life jackets here, so that I'm safety.
Spare.
And yeah,
spare. Little PFD.
Yep.
And in the old days they called that a life jacket. Now they call them PFDs.
Personal flotation device.
Yeah. What's in here?
Now that was. Well, see, when I started, she didn't have any stability still, and when I put these cabins on, she had less. And one time my girlfriend and I were sitting on the same side, and she damn near went over backwards.
Oh, wow.
Taking us down, but I lunged at the other side, thank God, and I was able to save the situation. So I said, well, you know, I better do something about that. So what I did is, yeah, never mind. So I decided on tumble home. So what you see here, I went from. First of all, I put flare in the bow, it was it started here. This was the old valve line. So I've added this flare. So now when she comes into a wave, she's not going to stick her snout into the wave. She's going to float above the wave.
Okay.
And then so after I did the flare, I did the tumble home, and I started here, and that just added. I used foam, glassed the foam into the other glass, and and painted it up, and that made it so much more stable. And
right?
in a seaway with wakes, she used to be pretty leany, kind of. So once I did that, I mean, I can laugh at wakes now.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one last question, then we'll go launcher. Tell me about this name, Duchess of Portsmouth.
Well, that was I like this guy, Charles II. He was King of England in the Cavalier era, and he loved ships. He was the first king to have yachts, and he was a terrific womanizer, but that's okay. That's and he was very keen on the Navy, and he's the one that actually built up the Navy. And from then on, they had a tradition with Queen Elizabeth, but he came along and really did wonderful things for the Navy.
And who's the Duchess of Portsmouth?
She was his favorite concubine.
Oh, okay. Somehow they always manage to get in the scene.
Oh yeah,
Get something named for them.
it's human nature.
It is. All right, well, let's go. I'm gonna let
Now-
you drive away and launch her.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
Now, when I decided to put this on, it was heavier. So every cubic foot of water weighs 65 pounds.
Uh-huh.
So I added, what is this, about two feet?
Uh-huh.
She's 17 feet long.
Uh-huh.
17 and a half. And that gave me the flotation to be able to float on her lines.
Oh, yeah.
And this is actually very excellent for, it's about the right pitch.
Okay.
It's the same as my rake in the stern.
Yep.
And so she doesn't pound. Now she floats right on her lines. And
Beautifully.
she comes up, and I'm very happy with her.
And last question, how long have you owned it?
Since 1991.
91.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
And some of these changes took a while to do, but